Let's get started. Let's dive in, guys. You are in for a treat, as you've seen from my emails. I'm so glad you've joined us. I've met Jeff several years back, and just very impressed. I've heard many speakers, presenters, and he's one of my top ones. And you'll see why what he's going to share. It's going to be very. It's going to really help you in many different ways. He's very quickly on his bio. I don't want to take time there, but he's started companies such as, he's been a co-founder of companies like Priceline and Booking.com, like giants that you and I have heard. And he's on the board of many companies. He's an international speaker, best-selling author, film producer. I didn't know that until I read his bio recently. So he's a very accomplished person. And as we get into as he shares, you'll see that there's another side of it, which is Jeff's a humanitarian. He's a giver. He's a giver in every sense of the word. And I don't say it because Jeff's here in front of us. The guy's a giver. I've observed him. I've been watching him for many years, and the things he has done have been very impressive. And in the entrepreneurship world, it's not only about financial success. It's about the other side, which I think Jeff has really mastered. So with that said, Jeff, I'm so honored. I'm so privileged that you said yes. I sent you the email and you said, yes, of course, I'll do this. I really, really appreciate that. And I'll give you the stage, man. Take it from here. I'll get my webcam off for the moment.
Awesome. Thank you. And I appreciate everybody that is taking their time to join us this day. One of the things we want you to do is I'm going to start by talking about something I call my 3 R's because the question I'm getting asked the most is, as a business owner, what do I do now during this COVID pandemic, and how do I deal with it? And so I'm going to share something that I came up with just called my 3 R's. What we would like you to do is type questions in the chat. For those of you who aren't familiar with Zoom, down at the bottom of your screen, there's a little thing that says chat. If you click on that to open the chat window, type your questions in there. And then after I talk for a few minutes, I'm going to try to, we just want to be interactive. We want to answer your questions and talk about what you want to talk about. So please type questions in the chat as we go. We'll get to them after a little bit and have some interactive time. But I'm going to start with the 3 R's. And it's been really helpful. I am happen to be the chairman of, so just very quickly, I'm a lifelong entrepreneur. I've been building companies my whole life. The biggest ones I've been a part of are Priceline.com, Booking.com, a company called ubid.com, et cetera. So I've been building businesses for a long time. Today I serve as the chairman of the Global Entrepreneurship Network. We help people start up and scale up their businesses, launch and grow businesses. We now have people on the ground in almost 180 countries. So recently I did one of these. Somebody knows I've been it's been really busy this time. So we were really happy to be able to make this time work with you guys. But I did one of these live to business owners in more than 100 countries, all on one giant call, which is the cool part of this technology. And what I've been doing is listening for weeks now about what business owners are doing and how they're surviving. So let me tell you about the 3 R's. Salim and I thought we would lead with that. My 3 R's are called REPurpose, RETool, and REDeploy. And the question the 3 R's is answering is, how do I get through this pandemic? Especially since many of us, so a lot of us, our core business and our core customers and our revenue streams shut down during the pandemic. So with that being said, we've been discussing for all of us, how do we get through this time? So I'm going to walk through each of those. And I'm going to tell you, by the way, if you go like on my LinkedIn or just Google it, Inc. magazine posted a story about my 3 R's on Inc.com with all the details. So everything I'm going to say is already written up, and you can find it under my name on Inc.com. But anyway, this will be much better because we're going to do it interactively. So the first R for businesses right now has been repurpose. And let me tell you that this exercise of repurposing turns out to be a really good exercise to do as a business anyway, because it's something we've all been too busy to do. And so here's what I've been leading a number of businesses through is going to a whiteboard somewhere. And on the left, it's literally taking an inventory of your assets. And it would be like if you were moving and the movers ask you for an inventory of everything you have. So on the left of a whiteboard of something, a blank space, stop and take an inventory. And like I said, it's a really good exercise anyway. So the inventory is a list of, you can do this for you personally, but also for your company and your entire team. The list is all of your assets. So you start listing all of the skills within your company and yourself. I'm going to give you an example for each of these so it'll be clear. What skills do you have? What is your skills inventory on the list? What talents do you have? By the way, those aren't always the same, right? A skill might be accounting, but a talent is the ability to listen to a story and pick out what they were actually saying and what mattered, right? So prioritizing and drilling down are talents, but a skill is accounting. So you list your skills within your whole company and all your people. You list your talents, the things you guys are really good at, and then you list your resources. What else do you have available to you? By the way, in some cases it's physical. Well, we have an office. Well, we have 3 company vehicles, right? We have technology, whatever you have, your assets. So on the left of the REPurpose exercise is a list of all of your skills, talents, resources. And like I said, it's actually really good to do because when you stand back and look at it, 2 things happen. Some people have said to me, wow, we're not even marketing all the skills we have here. We have more assets than I thought. We don't even sell them well. Or people said, I didn't realize no one in my organization is really good at this thing. We could be increasing our service to our customers if we rounded out our skills inventory. So that's the first part of the exercise. The second part is COVID specific. It's looking at the war on COVID, let's say, the attack on COVID, and saying, now remember, repurposing, you do this exercise, the second part of it, under the assumption that you can't run your core business the way you used to. You're not generating the revenue during the pandemic that you used to, and so you're trying to repurpose yourself. And again, I'll give you an example in a minute. So on the right side, you're writing down everything that it takes to, to the war on COVID. And by the way, that includes everything from battling COVID itself, like medical supplies and healthcare, to teaching kids at home, online education, to work from home, right? What are the tool sets people need because they've never worked virtually before? So all these things are battlefronts of the pandemic, is how to work from home, how to work virtually, how to remote employees, how to teach your kids and manage your kids while they're home and online education, how to deliver food and medical supplies to people during social distancing. All those things are part of the new world as a function of COVID. And then what you do is you take a marker and you try to map the skills and assets you have to the needs that sprung up during COVID, and you see if you can repurpose your business, maybe for the short term, maybe for the long term. Here's an example. A company that I mentor called me, and this company said to me, I'm just going to tell you, they were I don't drink, but they're a distillery. They make vodka for a living. Their customers were liquor stores that buy from them, but because of social distancing, no one was going to stores, and the stores stopped ordering, and their business was shut down. And they said, we're in a panic, not generating revenues, we can't sell vodka to liquor stores, what should we do? And we did this exercise on the left. And you know what we put on the left? On the left, we put that they have chemists that know chemistry, they know solutions and mixing and reactions. And by the way, one of their overall skills, one of their talents is they're really good at working with alcohol-based solutions. Their assets included these big mixing tanks. And so on the right, at the time, we wrote down that there's people all over the world that have a shortage of hand sanitizer and they can't get it. So guess where this story is going? We repurposed the whole company. We took their chemists and their mixing tanks and their skills with alcohol. We brought in a different type of alcohol. They were completely shut down, generating no money and unemployed. And they started making hand sanitizer with different alcohol using their chemists and their tanks. You know what? They sell out every batch. They called me back and said, we went from no revenue to hiring every chemist we can find in our city because we're getting so many orders for hand sanitizer all over the place that our revenues are more than doubled during the pandemic when they'd gone to zero. That is repurposing, applying your skills and assets to a business that didn't really, a problem that you didn't really think about before the pandemic. Now, that doesn't apply to everybody. Some people say to me that, well, we can't find something we can repurpose to. So we're going to talk about redeploy in a minute. But let's do the middle R, which is retool. There has never been, I think, a better time than now to reinvent yourself and reinvent your business. Huge opportunity. So here's what retool means. You are home and you are online probably more than you've ever been as human beings, as parents, and as business professionals. But during this exercise I just told you to do on the left, mapping your skills and talents, I asked people when they looked at that, I said, what is a skill? What is something you've always wished you had the time to learn as a business or as an individual, but you've never done it? And now is the time that you can take free online courses and develop new skills and talents during this downtime that you would have never had time to do when you were in the office and work was flowing. So I'm going to give you an example. There was a company in the consumer products, their business. They sold consumer products that no one was buying during the pandemic because they weren't essential. And they were just sitting around and they said, Jeff, we can't really repurpose. We can't do anything that really fits COVID right now. So what should we do in the interim? And I said, before we talk about redeploy, what you should be doing is retooling. And I said, what is something, and I want everybody listening to think about this, what is a skill or talent that is not on the left side of the board in the exercise we just did that would really help your business? So I'm going to tell you the answer they gave me. They said, honestly, we keep reading about artificial intelligence and we don't really know what AI is. And I said, what do you think it is? And they said, some way to make our business smarter. And I said to them, wouldn't it be cool if you had some kind of predictive algorithm that was able to predict what your customers are going to need before they ask you for it? And they said, of course. That's what AI does. So you know what we did? We found free online AI courses that none of these people would have ever thought of. His entire team at his company are getting certificates in applied artificial intelligence. By the way, like I happen to be a graduate of Yale University. Yale announced last week that they're making tons of Yale classes free online that you don't need to pay Yale tuition for. There are thousands and thousands of free courses. So his entire workforce is getting certificates in applied artificial intelligence. They take a class 90 minutes a day, every day. His whole team goes at their own pace, whatever time you want. They're taking this AI class. Then when they have their Zoom work meetings, they are designing a consumer behavior predictive AI algorithm for their business. When COVID is over and they all come back to work, they're going to be a way better company than they were before because they're going to be an AI-enabled company, which they never had time to do. So in retooling, what I want you to do is think of a skill that would benefit you as a person or you as a business that you've never had time to learn, and find online and free, typically, even if they're not expensive, education and certification courses to develop skills. By the way, one company that I'm working with, their whole team, I sort of hooked them up with this entire personal and workforce development free online workshop. They don't really have a corporate culture at their company. And there's this unbelievable workshop that teaches you how to manage personal development. Basically, it's about attracting and retaining talent by developing a culture that nurses and grows people. And it's a free online course. And there are people keep saying, oh my gosh, I feel like we are a totally different company. I can't wait to get back to work full time with everything I learned while I was retooling myself. So that's my second R. Use this advantage to become something amazing. By the way, on a side note, it's a really good family exercise too. Challenge your kids. Ask them something they're completely passionate about. I was talking to a child that is now taking online guitar lessons because he has always wanted to learn guitar, and you don't want your kids playing Fortnite 24/7 or TikTok. So we told him to challenge your family to learn a new skill during this time as well. My third R is something called redeploy. So you've written on the left, you've done this exercise of mapping all your skills and all your resources. You've added to that list retooling. What skills and resources, what talents do you wish you had that you're going to learn during this work from home time? But even if you can't so there are companies that can't repurpose. And what they're telling me is our employees are really stressed. They see that me as a business owner is stressed. We're not generating our usual revenue. The economy seems a little crazy. We don't know if it's going up and down. We don't know what's going to happen to our company going forward. We're hurting right now. It's hurting us financially. Customers are holding back. People, your employees, your team are scared. They're stressed out in many cases because of the uncertainty. So the worst thing to do during uncertainty is to sit around being uncertain, because human beings have this trait. If we don't know the answer, we start making one up in our head. The entire reason that your children believe there is a monster under the bed is because you haven't proven to them that there's not, okay? Even though it's totally irrational, while they're laying in the dark in their bed, a human brain starts imagining things, and we tend to imagine the worst frequently. Until you turn all the lights on and show your kid there's no monster under the bed. Well, right now, COVID and the economy are the monster on the under the bed for adults. They're worried about this. So here's what you do in redeploy. You take that same set of skills on the left and you say to yourself, in my community, this one tends to be a little more localized. In your community, who are the first responders? Who are the leaders in the war? I'm going to use the same term, in the war on COVID. And how might you be able to help them? What do they need? So here is the example of redeploying. I was talking to a company that's in the tech business. They sell software and no one's ordering it right now. Everybody's holding tight to their money until they see what the economy does, the election, so many things. So he said, Jeff, right now with COVID, no one wants to buy our software. We're not generating revenue, and I couldn't figure out a way to repurpose. And I said, right, but you have a skills map now. What stuff are you good at? Well, in his case, he said, we have unbelievable graphic designers in our company. We're really good at that. He said, we have internet online marketing people, SEO and SEM people. That's his assets. And I said, now what I want you to do is make a list of the people in your community that are battling on the front lines and call them, reach out to them and ask them what they need. So here was the story in his city. There was one big hospital in the city he lives in, which is the main medical center of their city. The hospital, he'd seen the hospital director on the news saying, people, you're getting so much disinformation about COVID. The news, the media is filling you with the wrong, the internet is filling you with false and misleading information about COVID, and we, the hospital, need to correct it. And he said, the problem is we are doctors and nurses. We are not graphic designers and internet marketers. We don't know how to get the message out. So I said, call him. Your employees are sitting at home doing nothing now because you don't have work for them. So they called the hospital director, and here's what he said. This is the definition of redeploy. Loan your talents to somebody who could use them instead of sitting around doing not much if you can't put your people to work full time. So what we did was we loaned the graphic designers and the online marketing experts to the hospital. They still worked from home, but they built a COVID information medical website and question answering site online on the hospital. The hospital didn't know how to build a website, they're doctors. They built an absolutely beautiful online website that is a Q&A for the hospital to the community to get out the information about COVID. Not only were his employees much more energized because they were doing something good in their community and they were working, even though it was volunteer work, they weren't sitting at home. They're physically sitting at home. They were helping battle the problem. Then a really cool thing happened. Because the hospital's website was so good, because it was designed by professional graphic designers and marketers from a tech company, not from a hospital, they got recognized and they won 2 big government grants. So you know what they did? They called my friend back and said, can we just hire your whole team until you need them back? So all of his employees are getting paid now, not from him, from a hospital with a grant to do a COVID information campaign in the medical industry. That is an example of redeploying. So Salim, what I'd like to do is have you come back on now. Those are the 3 R's: repurpose, redeploy, retool and redeploy. What I want to do before we go to another topic is stop here and see, Salim, if you have any questions, or if any of you guys have questions, please put them in the chat so that we can read them, because what we want to do is use this time to talk about what you're thinking and feeling, what you guys want to talk about. So you're welcome to just type comments in there about what you think about what we're talking about, but you're also welcome to type questions in there so that we can make sure we're being interactive and responsive to you guys. So I will stop there for the time being.
Absolutely. Folks, please do that. Or the big idea you've got so far from hearing Jeff share, repurpose, retool, redeploy. What was the big thing, the one thing you got from that that applies to you and your business? Jeff, there's so much stuff going on now, news, fear, a lot going on in terms of we are working in a new environment with our clients, customers, patients, whatever that may be for the folks that are watching this, with employees. How does the entrepreneur focus? How do you put all that distraction and kind of do what needs to get done?
You know, the distraction is really hard. There are so many different stories and so much media, and so much of it's angled. It's hard to know who to believe now. So it's really important to focus on something to tune a lot of it out and focus on something that is more priority. That's why I've been telling a lot of people that one of the best things that they can do right now is to get a little bit hyper local. Reach out in their community and focus on something in their community where it's much easier to get accurate information. I'll give you another example. Besides the hospital. So by the way, somebody just asked, and I'm going to look at Kirpal's question about CPAs redeploying and thoughts on that. One of the, and that's why I want you to list your skills and assets at a more generic level. What are you good at? You know, doing accounting is not necessarily the talent, right? On its own as CPA. So I'm going to give you an example that came. So I'm going to just deter just because I saw that question. That was a good one in the Zoom. Somebody that I know that is an accountant, one of the things he's good at is systematizing, right? He can track both sides of a ledger and balance sheet. What he told me is, Jeff, I'm really good. I'm like a detective. I hunt down every side, every credit, every debit. He uses software, but he's better than the software. He said, when things don't match, I have really good intuition. And he said, I've got really good systems for balancing both sides of a ledger and for tracking things down. And I said, your tracking down and organizing skill is really important. So there was a this was in New York, overloaded medical center that in fact had way more patients than they ever had. They had different symptoms and things to track. Basically, the medical center had a really simple register, right? When you come and register as a patient, their ability for them to track COVID patients and start tracking all the tree of all the people. Were you on the subway? Who did you talk to? Who did you visit? They didn't have the tracking system to track both sides of a ledger, treatment on this side and potential spread on the other side. And he came in and he said, I know it's not debits and credits, but could my team help you guys create a system to track these patients better? And they did. So what I want you to do is think outside the box a little bit. They may not need you to do their accounting, but if you are really good at tracking and building those kinds of systems, maybe there's a way that you redeploy your skills. So Kirpal, that's what a friend of mine did. His team is not doing the accounting for the hospital. They're helping them create a kind of on-the-fly Excel spreadsheets-based patient tracking system and sort of tree of where these patients have been and tools that the hospital is too busy treating people to create, but his whole team is helping with them. So Salim, back to your question, that is picking something that you can focus on in your community tunes out the noise, because I don't have to worry about all the national stories and what's going on. By the way, I got to tell you guys, it's so different by every state, right? That if you're trying to solve the national puzzle at home where you live, it's really hard to know who to believe or what to believe. So focus on where you live. An example is, we know how tight the rules are, for example, in California and New York, but in Florida, all the restaurants are open. There's no requirement to wear masks, so people aren't wearing them. They're on the beaches, right? They're in the bowling alleys. That's completely different. So if you live in Florida, you should focus on what Florida needs and how to help there. And if you live in New York, you should figure out who you can help in New York. Find a hyper-local community problem, a hospital to work with, a delivery company, whatever it is. Call them and say, not, I'm a CPA, do you need me to do your books or your accounting? But call them and say, I'm really good at these types of problems. Would you think I could help you with any of your problems using my skill set? I hope that made sense, because you got to think outside of your normal box to really tune out the noise and do something really useful right now. But it's very doable.
One of the things, Jeff, I know you believe in it. We had a quick chat on it earlier on in the call, is culture and how important culture is. Have you seen, I mean, with the pandemic and the new environment, that people have gotten closer together, they're fighting adversity together, and the same with clients. Have you seen the relationship change that businesses have with the people that they serve?
Yeah, so that's a great question, because it's a great opportunity for you. Here is something that I recommend every one of you do. It can be an email, letter, it can be a phone call, it can be a text. You guys know your clients. But if you have not taken the time to reach out to every single client you have and say the following: this is not a business call. I just want to check on you and your family because I care. I care about my community. I care about my customers. I care about you as people. From my family to yours, are you okay and do you need anything? Is there anything that your family needs that we could help with? You should be saying that to every client. This is not a business call. Tell them, this is a human call. I just want to know how you and your family are doing and if you need anything. And by the way, if they do need something, this is a time for you to step up. We had some people that had lost a family member, and so we had somebody else in the client network that lived near them. We asked them to go order a bunch of takeout food, pick it up and leave it on their doorstep so they didn't have to worry about food at a time when they were really stressed over a funeral that they couldn't have. But it's because we called them and said, we just want to check on your family. And they said, actually, thank you so much for calling. We're not doing well. A family member just died and we found out we can't do a funeral and we're very, very upset right now. And so he said, well, would it help if we brought you 3 days worth of meals? And they said, well, frankly, yes. So he called a different customer and said, I've been checking on my customers. You're one of them. Somebody that lives near you is also a customer of mine. I'll be happy to give you my credit card, but would you go pick up 3 days worth of meals for their family and drop it on their doorstep and ring the bell? And so reaching out to everybody you know right now and asking them that question. And by the way, when we talk about culture, Salim, what happens is your clients and your community are going to remember the companies that reached out, that went and put food on their doorstep, that asked them how they were doing. They're going to remember that a lot. And later, when contracts are up for renewing or new customers are out there, what do you think they're going to remember? They're going to remember the culture of your company was about caring and giving, not just renewing contracts and sending an invoice. They remember those things. They get noted in the community. If you have a culture of giving and caring and you're not just saying it, they'll remember that. And that glue sticks a lot harder than your pricing for your contract does. We have had many cases where people have said to us, there are actually lower cost competitors out there, but we wouldn't do business in this community with anybody else but your company, Jeff. And it's because they said the humanity of your culture really shows through and really matters to us. So you should take the time to contact everybody on your client list, ask if they can help, they need any help. And if you sense they do, actually go help and go do something.
That's great, man. Question from Lani, and Lani is an astute entrepreneur, mentor, coach. And the question here is, the COVID-19 situation will eventually end. How will the 3Rs work on the other side of the coronavirus? And what's your take on the new normal? Great question, Lani.
Yeah, so that is a really, really, hang on one second. Something's buzzing and I need to turn it off. That's a really, really good question. And so here's where I am seeing the result of that. It isn't in the, it might be the repurpose, by the way. Some companies have launched into completely new businesses that they temporarily repurpose for, and they said, this is better than my original business. But your question is, COVID ends, and how does the 3Rs work? And here's why I think it's important. That skills and inventory mapping exercise I told you to do, most people have not stopped in years to write all that down and step back from the whiteboard and stare at it and say, what am I really good at? And how do I capitalize on that? And it's in the process of doing that that you are going to discover that you might enter completely new revenue streams and businesses. I am going to give you 3 examples that I mentioned earlier of where the 3R process is leading to whole new opportunities and companies I'm talking to that are so excited because they moved into new areas of business that they were never in before. So the first one is, it's a whole new market, is WFH. WFH stands for work from home. And the reason I'm smiling is, not too long ago, I saw a text conversation between 2 friends of mine. One of them texted WYD to his friend, which means, what you doing? The other friend texted back WFH. Now, just a month ago, my friend would have responded with WTF, question mark, because he would have never known what WFH is. So now everybody knows that means working from home. The expression didn't even exist 6 weeks ago. That's how much the world has changed. We all know what work from home means, but we're not good at it. The whole world sent all of its employees home and wasn't prepared for work from home, the tool set. And now everybody is suddenly saying, what can I do better? How can I use more remote employees? I had one company say, all our employees were in our office 5 days a week, and I think I'm gonna go to 3 days at home and 2 days in the office. I'm gonna get rid of my expensive leaves. We're just gonna use pop-up offices for a weekly staff meeting in person, and they can work at home from now on. And what he needs for that is a set of productivity tools and customer, the customer-facing tools to be as good at his job remotely. They'll still do a lot of in-person, but they'll do 25% of it in person now and 75% remotely. The point is, the work from home industry is massive and exploding. So when you're looking at your skills, you may say, during this repurpose exercise, I discovered that these are talents that we have at our company that we should, that we could deploy to offer a whole new set of services. I don't know what they are, you got to think about that. But maybe there's services you can offer your customer in setting up their work from home. Maybe when people are at home, here's a big question. I used to work in the office where everything I did was already incorporated. What I mean is the cost of the office was already part of the office. My parking was already part of the office. The food that I ate in the break room, the coffee, the machines I use, the postage machine, everything, all those expenses are at the office. I, as an employee, don't have anything to do with those. Our controller does. Now I'm working at home and I have no idea what expenses you need me to track, what qualifies. I'm just making this up on the fly here. How do I, as a work from home employee, know what expenses to collect? Do you have a tool for me to collect them in so that my company is properly accounting for business expenses from working home from employees? Maybe you could build a tool for that, because I've already had employees of mine ask me, what are we supposed to be writing down? What are you paying us back for? We've never done this from home. Somebody went and FedExed a package and said, I paid for that with my credit card. Do I just send the receipt to you? Was I supposed to use a different account? Tons of questions. Just an example about work from home, that maybe your company could start offering tool sets or guides to how to work from home and effectively account for that. That's an example of post-COVID What can you do differently by understanding what you're good at and solving problems that didn't exist pre-COVID? So that was an example. But thank you. That was a really good question.
Awesome. Something that I had heard a little while back is fear and uncertainty lives in stagnant waters. Fear and uncertainty lives in stagnant waters. And, it's to what you said in terms of, doing the right things and forward movement. The example of the turning the light on, there's ghosts or whatever creatures under the bed, right? There's uncertainty, and there's so much of that it results in not taking action. And not taking action is, it's in a place of being stagnant. And it's really moving forward and taking that right action and, repurposing, retooling, what you're saying, redeploying. That makes a lot of sense there, Jeff.
Yeah, it's, again, sitting at home and stressing about all this stuff makes it so much worse. Taking an AI course, here's another example. I was reading about schools in my community where in the lower income part, where the only meal, I didn't know this, the only meal some of these kids got, their parents didn't have food at home. Some days the only meal they got was the free lunch at school. Then school ended. So some of these kids are not getting a meal every day, not 3, but not even 1. So some of my employees that were sitting around and said, can we do something? I said, yeah, call the school and tell them, if we started bringing food, could you set up a drive-through pickup point, and you tell all of your low-income families who need some food that we'll bring food to the school, they can drive through a line and pick up food there. So my employees were taking a couple hours every day or week delivering food to the school, and the school was having parents come through in a drive-by line and pick up food. They were doing something that was a lot better for them psychologically and emotionally than just sitting around reading fake news and getting scared.
Question from Bill Adams. Given that the post-COVID work-at-home movement is here to stay, how important is it for leaders to find collaboration tools that synchronize the process, simplifies communication, and automates work in order to optimize business performance?
Sure. So I think that is critically important. And I swear almost every day there is a new tool coming out. It's important to, no matter what tool you use. So we're using Zoom right now, but already there's a brand new thing that everybody says is better than Zoom. It's called Jitsi, Jitsi. So then I'm starting to get Jitsi invites. I never even heard of it. And it's got more functions because they invented it recently when they asked people, what are all the things you wish we could improve on Zoom? Then a new tool came out called Remo, R-E-M-O, that's a completely virtual office. It literally looks like your office. And you create a little avatar of yourself. And I can walk into Salim's office, and when I walk into it, it closes the door and only he and I are talking right now, even though we see each other like this on video. And then I can walk into Lonnie's conference room where he's having a discussion of companies in Texas. And as soon as I walk in there, I'm in that discussion. It literally looks like and functions like an office. And it's called Remo. Every day, someone's inventing a new tool to make work from home easier. So you should, at least once a week, you should be sort of Googling and seeing what new tools or what improvements came out that you didn't even know about yesterday, and go try them. Don't keep using the same thing. Do a few tests. I am finding absolutely amazing new tools almost on a weekly basis now. Lonnie just asked another good question there about culture. You see that one?
Yeah, totally. How do you, I know Lonnie's a big guy on culture. So are you, Jeff.
So I think that the biggest answer to that, to culture, about maintaining or building one is, and especially at work from home, is defining one in the first place. By the way, most people that companies, if I asked you guys, if I asked CEOs what your culture is, you can tell me. But if I go to your office and ask employees to tell me about the culture, you know what they usually wind up doing? They usually wind up going to get an employee policy manual or a PowerPoint that has a vision statement. Your culture needs to be short, powerful statements of your values and written on the walls, literally on the walls in your office. And so when I walk in there, I should know what you stand for, right? And what you believe in. One of the ones I'll give you is an example. In my company, one of our biggest values was humanity first. I told my employees, I'm not here, you have a decision to make, and if the decision is between profits and humanity, do the human thing, make the long-term decision. And I, like, for example, I don't know, refunding somebody's money. If you feel that the customer was wrong, we were right, but it's a big misunderstanding, it'd be better for the long term to just say, okay, ma'am, that's fine. We'll refund you this and you can have that service for free, even though we're right. If you feel like the human thing to do is let's just give her her money back and let's move on. Humanity over profits, as long as you do that, you'll never get in trouble with me, right? If you made the human decision. So your question is, that's on our walls. So when my employees are literally on a phone call, on the wall, they can look out, from their office and they see humanity first. Remember what we stand for. So you're asking how you maintain that from home. You know what I do? I do this on my staff meetings. I ask people, does anybody have a story to share about living one of our values? I constantly repeat them. You know that our values include humanity first. Who did something this week that reflects our values from home? And I had an employee literally yesterday say, I didn't do it, but I was talking, my son was listening to you talk in one of our staff meetings. Like a lot of you, your kids are walking around behind you in this meeting, or someone in your family. She said, my teenage son was listening to you, Jeff, and he asked if he could do something for the elderly that live at a nursing home in our community. So he went over there and did some volunteer work to bring things to the nursing home because he heard that. So she said that those people at the nursing home know my last name because our firm, right, we advertise in a lot of the local newspapers. So they associated my son with our firm because they recognize the last name. And she said, so people said, wow, those people care. That their son came over to our senior citizen home to help out, right? And he doesn't even work for the firm. That's just the way their family is. So constantly discuss your values with your employees while they're home and challenge them. Say, who's done something reflective of our values during this time? I've got about 7 or 8 minutes left, just so you can pick.
Cool. Good stuff, man. So the question, Jeff, is, you are into giving, humanitarian work that you do, why is that? What inspires you? Why do you do so much of that?
It didn't sort of start out that way for me. What happened was we all sort of told the messaging in our society is about success, right? And success tends to be, I don't know, everybody's trying, I'm going to overstate this, so don't be offended. Everybody's trying to get rich and famous, right? That's certainly the message we sell our kids with YouTube stars. And again, you can disagree with me, but here is my, I'd like to enter into the court evidence exhibit A, the Kardashian family. That's my first piece of evidence of people getting famous for what did they do to make society better? It doesn't matter. They just got famous for the sake of being famous. So what happened was, the message we're giving to a lot of young people is just try to get famous or try to get rich or whatever. And so I will admit that was the social messaging. And so I thought success had a lot to do with my finances and my status in the community. And what I discovered was, even when you get where you're going, it's kind of empty. I got to a point one day where I say, wait, this is it? I literally, Salim, this was kind of funny because one day I got to my office and I looked around and I said, I was honking at the guy in front of me so I could get here quicker. This is right. I was like, I can't believe I'm honking in traffic because I want to get to another day in the office quicker. And it's important to me, but I realize that's not what I'm on earth for. This can't be it. I can't just be here to sign another customer and close another sale. And so the first time that I was able to do something, because now we were profitable, and I was watching a story on the news in my community about a shelter for abused women that was being shut down because they ran out of money. And I was like, man, they should do something. They should help those women. And guys, if you want to write anything down from today, write down these 4 words, because these are the 4 words that guide my whole life. I stood up, I had a realization, an epiphany at that moment, Salim. I was saying they should help those women. They're going to have to go back to their abusive households or live on the streets because they're getting kicked out of the shelter for abused women. And I said, they should help those women. And then a thought came to me. I said, if everybody that sees a problem in their community says, man, they should do something, no one's going to do anything because we're all saying they should fix it. So I stood up and I wrote on my board, Salim, I wrote, there is no they. And by the way, that's written in all my offices, on all the walls, there is no they. Everybody that works for me knows that it's you and it's us. So I actually took profits from our company, told my employees, we went down there and funded the shelter for abused women. And now my employees are constantly saying, let's make more profits and find someone else in our community. Who can we do next? Who else in our community needs help that we could help by being profitable? So when we started doing that, my employees get more excited about their work. They drive past the women's shelter on the way to work and they swell with pride. They say, we did that. So what I tell them is, now you got that triple bottom line. The harder you work, the better we take care of our customers, the more money we make. The more money we make, the more people in our community that we can go find that need help, that there is no they. They're not going to help those people, we are. So our company has a giving tree on the wall that's a list of all the people in our community we've helped by running a good business. It makes me can't be excited to go to work every day. It makes me not only not be ashamed to make money, but excited to make more so that I can give it away. One of the things that's written on our wall as well, and this might be close to a good note for us to end on, is I wrote on the wall, that there's no shame in life in making money. The shame in life is in not using it to help others. My employees love working at my company because every single quarter we take money out of profits and we go out and we fix something in the city we live in. And they love doing that. They talk to friends whose company doesn't do that. And their friends say, man, I want to work there. I want to have a legacy. When I leave work, I want to be able to say, see that right there, my company did that. So the giving part is a win-win-win. It makes me feel like my hard work means something, and it makes my employees excited about being part of a company that exhibits good citizenship. Maybe do one more, or if you just want to wrap us up.
Yeah, lots of comments coming in and so forth. But yeah, the question that I have, and I want to kind of finish off on this, Jeff, is you've seen highs and lows, been in business, in life. What's your advice to someone who's struggling? Business is dried up. You know, the people, the clients that were going to close, conversions that they were going to head, the sales that were going to make, have kind of dried. They're waiting. They're holding things closer to their vest. What's your advice to the person watching, listening to this, who is struggling from that standpoint?
Probably my biggest advice right now is that, and that's why I'm so glad that you're doing this, Salim, with all the people on this call. Probably my biggest advice right now is that there's never been a more important time for you to create community. And what I mean by community is this is the time for all of you to reach out, people that you might have considered competitors. Right now, we all need to help each other. We need to help each other survive. So what I am telling people to do is to take advantage and/or create their own masterminds. You're doing that now. Everybody on this call, Salim, you could be having a separate call where they're just talking to each other and there's no speaker. And what you're doing is saying, what are you feeling? What are you facing? What's working for you? What's not working for you? This is the time to stop being competitors and start being cooperative and helping each other. Let's all help each other get through this tough time, and by sharing solutions. And so that's probably my most important piece of advice. When you all call each other and you all say, I just want to know what's working for you, and I want to know how you're getting through this time, and you're sharing problems, you're sharing feelings, and you're sharing solutions, we have been seeing absolutely amazing results from people forming impromptu new communities to talk over problems and to help each other get through them.
Awesome. Cool. That was super good stuff, man.
Folks,
Lots of
guys, I do have to run, but Salim knows how to find me. It's just jeff@jeffhoffman.com. And you know I'm here, sir, because of you and the way you treat people and you treat your customers and your culture. So thank you for doing things the way you do them. That's literally the reason that I said yes.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it. You take care, Jeff. And
all
thanks,
right,
everyone.
Be safe.
Thanks, everyone, for joining us. Appreciate you. Appreciate you, Jeff. And have a great weekend, everyone.
Thank you. Talk to you soon.
All righty. Bye.
Bye-bye.